Hey, look what we have found. A big sound in a small town. Far away from the bright lights. They're making music every night. Discover what is all around. A big sound. A big sound. In a small town. Big sound, small town. A really big sound. Big sound, small town.
You're listening to Big Sound, Small Town with Sandy Carlton.
Hi, welcome to Season 4 of Big Sound, Small Town. I'm your host, Sandy Carlton. Join me as musicians tell their stories about how they became musicians and the stories along the way.
Okay, hey there. I thought we were recording the whole time. So it might not be much different than, I guess we just sit around and talk, right?
That's what we do.
That sounds great. My name is Jason Krekel. And
That's good,
that's
Jason.
who I am.
And what do you do, Jason?
Well, I do all kinds of stuff, but I do play music, and I think that's why I'm here.
Yeah,
today
probably, yeah.
On your podcast. Yeah, I also do some visual art.
Yes, I've seen that
And
too.
I do some working outside with my hands in the dirt, and sometimes that's more fulfilling than anything.
No, well, that can be kind of therapy also.
Oh, it really is, I tell you.
So-
I got to get outside. I get up every morning and sit with my dog on the front porch, listen to the birds. That's when I started doing that. My life got a lot better. I don't know.
I just did that actually here this week and wrote a song about it. You know,
Yeah.
I was sitting there trying to just enjoy it, and then it's like, oh, I better go get a guitar and write this. You know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
I tell you.
it's
Yeah, we were talking about my friend Woody Wood,
Yeah.
who I play with, and that's actually, we were talking about how, we'll get together and try to rehearse for 3 hours, and we'll end up playing for like an hour and a half, because the other hour and a half is just us
sure.
talking about philosophy.
Yeah.
but last time we got together, earlier in the week, we were talking about, living right, living in commune with the world instead of living as separate from the world.
Right.
But being with the world, as part of the world.
Sure.
And that's given me so much happiness.
And I'm sure Woody had a take on that.
Oh yeah, of course.
You know. So.
But that's just being able to notice your surroundings and be a part of it, and to know that you're part of it. You're not separate from it,
separate.
which is a big problem.
It is.
It causes so many issues by thinking that the earth is here to serve us,
True.
and not the other way around.
It kind of goes hand in hand with let's just live today, and we'll worry about tomorrow when it gets here.
Absolutely, because you never know.
No, you never know.
The older I get.
The older I get,
Yeah.
I play more funerals than I do jobs. No, I don't. That's not really true.
I tell you, I have a lot of of that in life, and you always hear this stuff when you're younger, but you just have to live it, and also
You do.
there's that thing about oh gosh, I wish I knew then what I know now.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it would never, because now is what you know, and now is the time
It's
to
where,
live.
it's where you are now.
And I guess that's the wisdom of age.
Yeah, which is
Old age.
one of the good parts of aging.
Yeah.
Not that there's a lot of that's not.
Yeah. I was telling someone, I was like, oh, the 40s were I'm 49 now, and I said the 40s have been my favorite.
Yeah,
decade,
40s are great, yeah.
And I guess, I expect that the next one will be even better,
Well, I can tell you that I'm 70 and life's still fun.
That's great.
I'm not ready to give it up by any means.
No. Well, sweet.
All right, now
Yeah.
you got a ton of different bands.
Yes. I have.
It's pretty diverse too. I mean, they're all so different.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. It's always, I guess, also getting older and having a diverse taste in music, you know, and not getting tired of things.
Yeah.
You know, so keeping it fresh and keeping my enjoyment of music, because if I don't enjoy music, I'm not gonna, you know, why would I pursue it
True.
as a career? And I have found myself in those ruts, as I'm sure we all have, in whatever vocation we have picked. But being able to, you know, to still be excited about things that are happening in the music world has diversified my tastes.
Yeah.
And diversified my output as well. But yeah, what I was saying about being an artist or a craftsman, you know, on the craftsman side of things, like, I guess whatever is, if I get excited by something, then I sit down and I try to like emulate it.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and you know, and so that's been that's probably dictated the fact that I have so many different kinds of bands.
Yeah, you do have
But
so many.
I was lucky, I think, from early age, you know, because of my father, but also, you know, one of the first real bands I was in, the Snake Oil Medicine,
Sure. Yeah.
was already a melting pot of like a lot of different.
I agree.
stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Just talk about that a little bit since
sure,
we're
yeah.
there. Yeah. Because we're in Green Acres territory, you know,
yes,
which is.
we are. And I just had to say, it's such an honor. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm tickled to death to have you here.
Well, it's hard for me to talk about myself.
Well.
I'm really nervously, you know.
You have a.
Getting ready for this, you know, it took me a year to write have my bio written, the latest one, because I was dragging my feet. But
Well, it's really cool because you actually have a very interesting story that I think people will see you in one band and are clueless about something else.
Yeah.
And clueless about, you know, let's talk about Snake Oil a little bit.
But it's true for anyone. You know, I always like, that's another thing about getting older is like, I really like to hear people's story, you know.
Oh, I do.
You know that person standing next to you has a lot going on.
I've learned so much doing this podcast, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, so much.
But yeah, I guess I moved to Boone. We were talking about, you know, I grew up in Nashville, but when I was young, my mom would always come to the Blue Ridge for our vacations.
Right.
In the summer, we'd come up around Asheville, and I remember going through Boone one time and looking out the window of the car, and I'd be like, I'm going to live here one day. It's just like,
Yeah, it's
was
a cool
enchanted
place.
by it, you know, as a kid. And then so, you know, I got in, you know, out of high school and college. I had a scholarship at one school and tried that for half a year and didn't like it. Went back to Belmont College for half a year. Then I'm like, well, I'm going to go to App State so I can get to Boone. And I went to App State in Boone, and I was there for a half a year. And then I was like, well, I can't afford
Sure, yeah.
college. And so I dropped out, and I started working in the restaurant industry. And I said, well, I'll work until, how many years is it going to take for me to get in-state tuition?
Right.
And by the time I was eligible, I had no desire to go.
Yeah.
I was playing music. I was in the school of experience at that point up
Sure.
there, and
A lot of good music in the Boone area, too. A lot of good musicians.
absolutely, you know, I had me being up there. I think my lifelong friend Jay Sanders, who we knew each other from high school, and had started taking guitar lessons at the same little guitar play, Cotton Music. Were you ever Cotton?
Yeah.
It was on that side of town where
Sure,
you were living, and Rob Jackson was my teacher. From the White Animals was his band.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and anyway,
So you weren't learning country.
no, it was more like classic rock.
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
It
I mean,
was,
that's kind of where, yeah.
Dylan, and that's where, you know, just, and then he'd be like, "What do you want to learn?" And I'd bring in like some Yes. King Crimson
Of course,
and,
yeah.
You know,
Adrian Belew, yeah. You're bringing in stuff that's like,
weird stuff.
I can't play that.
Yeah, I still can't really play a lot of it, but anyway, Jay Sanders was interested in Boone, and he came up there, and then we met so many other great musicians around there, and we were just like in our own little world of, you know, everybody knew each other. It was such a tiny town.
Yeah, it is a tiny town.
With the Ponds, George and Andy Pond and George's wife Caroline Pond moved up from Atlanta, and I met them 30 years ago on Halloween, and we just started clicking right away, playing music together, and formed the Snake Oil Medicine Show.
Which
our little weirdo band. It was like we were also kind of ignorant at that point in our youth that we didn't know we weren't, we were supposed to fall into certain genre rules and categories. So
it was obvious if you saw you guys play too. I mean,
anything.
It was great though.
But yeah, a collective, of.
I mean, the first time I saw you guys were at Green Acres.
Yes,
that was kind of mind blowing. So.
Well, Green Acres was mind blowing. It really brought out the best in a lot of musicians, and
I might even have done a Little King Festival with you guys on it one time.
Yes,
at somewhere that had a boat for a green room, maybe.
Oh my gosh! Wow, yes. The longer I'm sitting here looking at you, I realize that I've hung out.
I've played a lot of music around for a long time.
Yes.
But
you're from
I had a band called Mama Said during that time.
Oh yeah.
So it was pretty fun.
That's great.
We just actually attempted a 20-something year reunion not too long ago.
Yeah. Wow.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Yeah. Well, Snake Oil's on our 30-year reunion, but we never really broke up. But anyway, that was the first band where it was like, well, then we got a first booking agent.
Yeah.
All record. We won a Battle of the Bands in Hickory. We had a gig the night before. We drove down, did the Battle of the Bands in the morning. It was so weird. Won it and got free day of recording in Charlotte, and that's how we got our second record made.
Oh, really?
And then we would do things like that, and it was like things were clicking, and there was the jam band scene.
Yeah, it was
really starting to happen at that point. It was like the end of the Grateful Dead era and like the beginning of the Fish widespread panicking, and then from around here there was that bluegrass incursion into the music, and I feel like we were starting around on that. The Leftover Salmon was starting to happen at the same time, and so we're kind of riding that wave a little bit, but
I mean, you had a whole performance. I mean, you lived up to the name. You had a whole performance thing going on as well as the music.
Yeah, we had. We met my friend Phil Cheney, who was this amazing artist, and we're like, well, you're a great artist. Come paint on stage.
Yeah, it was great.
And then he started becoming like the visual reference for the band, and that was. And then we pay him as a performer.
Sure,
it was like equal footing with everybody.
Yeah.
And then I mean, I don't say that we started it, but I will say that like there was at the same time this was happening, but like it became more prominent. You start seeing painters on stage.
Right. Yeah. I think you guys were the first people I had seen with one. I mean,
we weren't referencing anyone. It was definitely something that we just came up with.
Right.
But I think other artists probably, and artists have been painting along.
Sure, they have
for years, but it definitely felt like.
I mean, you think about you can even take that back to Andy Warhol. I mean,
absolutely.
Take it back to. Yeah, Lou Reed. So not that he would paint on stage. Yeah,
It was a very similar vibe actually. When I saw that documentary about him, I was like, yeah, this is kind of like what we were.
Yeah, it kind of is really
going through at that time. But it was almost like we were in a vacuum of not knowing, not listening to a lot of contemporaries, listening to a lot of old stuff.
Yeah.
And George was the front. George and Caroline were the front people, so to speak. But he would write these songs non sequitur, weird, musically non sequitur, where like no musical training, but he would come up with these weird melodies, and then Jay and I, who had more musical knowledge, and we'd sit down and like figure out how to turn these things into songs, and it was a really magical. Time,
I mean, it was kind of like a Frank Zappa jam band with a sideshow,
Yeah, absolutely. And then performance art and where people get involved.
Yeah, I mean,
it was fun.
I saw dancers on stage, I believe, with you guys one time. Maybe even a juggler.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
So, which is way cool. I mean,
it is cool.
I mean,
Puppets. We had a puppeteer.
See, that's cool. I mean,
We had a guy from the West Coast who had been a part of the Bread and Puppet Theater up in Vermont, and he came down and built these giant puppets. Ran around 97, 98, and it's consequently at that time, we were on the verge, I feel like, of doing more stuff, going bigger, and then certain elements, certain people in the band, I think
it's a band.
there's a fear about that of if this the pursuit of life is this
Sure.
gonna ride, are we gonna be able to ride this, and for whatever reason, at the same time, around that same time, I met Larry Kill, and we had met the Acoustic Syndicate as well. They were kind of on our circuit, and we looked up to them, and Jay went off. It was the summer of '98, and Jay got hired to play bass for Acoustic Syndicate, and I got hired to play mandolin for Larry Kill Experience. And we were like, well, listen, I don't know, can you cuss on this podcast? But
Oh yeah.
say like shit or get off the pot.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And we're like, if we're not going to
Right.
pursue this, we're ready to go. And
Right.
so we went off with those other bands and hit the road running. Both Jay and I know were.
And both are really worthy jobs. I mean, if you're going to take a job playing with somebody, those are two good places to
Yes, big education, and I didn't know what touring was until I got in Larry's.
go. Well, Larry will tour. Yeah. I mean, Larry's going to play without a doubt.
Yes, and it was that time period too where there was a lot of going on. But yeah, he really. So for a couple of years there, and and then I got to a point where honestly, I just couldn't. I couldn't hang.
Yeah,
Honestly,
I mean,
couldn't hang with the touring, and also I wanted to.
and that was the Larry Kill. That was after his band. I mean, that was a total Larry and Jenny, right?
That was Larry, Jenny, and I.
Yeah.
Will Lee played banjo for parts of the tour. We also started playing with Curtis Birch around that time.
Yeah.
And so the Curtis Birch record was the last thing I recorded on there, and then I had this desire to go do my own thing.
Sure.
So I left the band in around 2000 and moved back to Asheville. And around that time too, I right around '98 is when I met my wife and we started hanging out together.
Sure.
She was also a musician, and we started playing together and took it from there.
And you still are playing together.
We still are playing together. Yes.
Which is a totally different thing, kind of than when you want to do do we do the Mad Tea Party here, or do we?
Oh well, I mean that was what we called the band for a while,
right?
We've since kind of settled into our names. Krekel and Woe is what we call it now, as you get older and if you play together as long as we have, and as I said before, my varying interests. The sound is going to change,
Sure.
And we had a lot of there was a lot of baggage around the Mad Tea Party as far as expectation around what we were doing, and then what we're doing now is so much different. So we decided, it's time to pursue a different, it's more personal now.
Yeah.
We're Krekel and Woe. She's Amy Worth and Amy Woe. We call her Amy Woe.
Yeah.
It's her stage name now.
Sure.
And we just have fun. She doesn't play music as a career anymore, just for fun. And so we maybe play at least once a month. But we still play together every week.
Right.
It's part of our regiment.
Yeah.
Because it's part of our relationship. It's a big part of our love affair.
I understand.
And we're so lucky to have that. And I'm so lucky to have her in my life.
Sure.
But also, I around 2000, I also was really pursuing playing with Woody. He and I
talk about Woody a little bit. Playing with Woody.
We were doing the Sufi Brothers. That's about when we started that band. Even though we'd been playing together since the early '90s, even before Snake Oil. I was asked to go on the road with the Blue Rags.
Yeah.
It was a band that
Woody was in.
Up to, well, he wasn't in at that point.
Well, but he had been in.
He was they asked Woody and I to join them in the van, jump in the van and go to Key West for a tour.
So who would not do that?
It was the first time I met Woody. We shook hands, sat down in the back of this van. and played music the entire way down.
That's too cool.
Started that relationship right out the bat, and then
it's a real good too. Before I forget it, that's a real good blend. The voices blend well.
Thanks.
The playing style fits really well. I mean, it's a really cool duet when you guys do that.
Thank you. I think so too. There's just some people that you have a magic.
And I think the two of you guys do the stuff I've seen from that is just it's it has a magic of its own.
It does. It really does. And we still do a few gigs a year. We're actually gearing up to do a festival and a little concert series, and then also. I put out some other records around the early 2000s. Just that things that I was pursuing the muse of all the weird things I was into at the time, and enjoying after being like on an intense road, doing intense road work through the 90s. I was enjoying being in North Carolina.
Yeah,
just
sure.
settling in.
And then so. How did Firecracker come about?
Oh well, Firecracker. Well,
I mean that's a totally different thing.
Yeah. Well, I met this couple in New Orleans. My first time. Well, I went to New Orleans a few times. We were talking about New Orleans because it's a really it really is what I call like the cradle of music civilization.
I can't argue that statement.
It's the Fertile Crescent City. It
is.
All the great music of America, I think, sprang out of that, and the story of New Orleans is so important and so indicative of the story of America, and just how the window that was afforded depressed people to gather that didn't happen in a lot of other places. Which was Conga Square.
Sure, yeah.
Created this melting pot of sounds that to this day is like.
Well, it's New Orleans.
The whole world,
Yeah.
And you live there, you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, in '99, went down there with. And I had been a couple times, but in '99 I went with Larry and Vinny. We did a run of shows, and met this couple. They were kind of like our. Benefactors down there. They booked us the gigs. Chris Jones, Ashley Thibodeau, and so I had and they showed me Mardi Gras. They basically introduced me to running with the Indians.
Yeah.
And I was privy to that magical thing that is still happening. And
yes, it is.
In one place in the whole world. It does. And I had my mind blown, and then kept in touch with them, and then. Katrina happened,
right?
And they moved to Asheville, and he opened the Thibodeau Jones Creole Kitchen. He's a great chef, and so he had this cool restaurant, and that's where the Firecracker Jazz Band came from. We were playing. We had a weekly gig there. They, a friend of mine, they had already been playing about 4 months, and then before they met, I met up with them, and I said, "Well, I love this.
Yeah.
This old jazz inspired a lot of the stuff that I brought to the table in Snake Oil Medicine Show. This hokum music, you call it, or this early swing stuff. I had a teacher in Boone. I call him a teacher. Is just a mentor who really opened my eyes to a lot. His name was Ransom Hobbs. He was a great guitar player. He passed away tragically, but he had a big influence on me and a bunch of the Blue Rags. When we weren't on the road, when Snake Oil wasn't on the road, and when the Blue Rags weren't on the road, he would open his house to us, and us derelict musicians who didn't have homes would live there. His wife would cook for us. He'd show us old videos of jazz, and we would sit around and play music for hours, and it was just and that was way out in the middle of nowhere around there.
Sure. I mean, you think about that. That is one of those things that is a once in a lifetime experience, really. Yeah. I mean, yes. A lot of people a lot of musicians would like to have that experience. Yeah. A mentor like that, someone who would do that. And that time of hanging and learning like that,
Yeah.
sitting around playing, there's nothing like it in the world, really.
It's not, I say I've collected old eccentric musicians in my life because those are the ones that have, that sometimes they're a pain in the ass to play with and to interact with, but that's where the education is, so I learned how to get into that swing music, and I had a tenor banjo in my life. It was one of my, I think the mandolin was the first thing that I seriously pursued. And the only reason I did that was so that I could learn to play the violin.
Well, you're a fine violinist.
So I was like, well, if I know how to play guitar, so if I get good on the mandolin, maybe I'll translate that over to the, so.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And then I also play the tenor banjo, and then that's how Firecrackers found me, and I found them. And so anyway, that's like a hot jazz, early New Orleans style.
It's really good. Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. And
then we've left out a band here.
Oh, we've left out about 3, but that's all right.
But you have another current band that you work with, really. Your band. Yeah.
Yeah. The Krekel are my 60s garage instrumental music, for want of a better word. I called it Psych Surf Exotica.
That's a great name for it. Yeah.
And there's a piano player from the Blue Rags, Jake Hollifield. He and I started a band called the Screamin' Jays, which is kind of a piano-driven rock and roll boogie woogie act. And we were doing that in the early 2000s. And then I brought in this couple of a drummer and a bass player. Lance Willey on the drums and David Wenge on the bass, and they had moved in to Nashville from Chicago. They had already been playing together there in surf acts and all kinds of different weirdo rock and roll acts, and I found those guys in my life, and I pulled them into the Screamin' Jays for a little while. We'd be rehearsing, and we'd play a song, and then then there'd be a long break for whatever reason. And in the break, I'd be playing some surf tunes,
right.
and then Dave was like, "Well, let's just start doing that." So they lost interest in the Screamin' Jays, but we picked up the Krekel at that point, and no one else was really doing that around Nashville,
and no one else still is.
Yes, well, there are a couple of acts now.
Oh, that's cool.
It's really cool. There's a lot of bands that have picked that up and run with it. But yeah, it's another. So I'd say my mainstays these days are the Krekel and Krekel and Woe with my wife, and then the Firecracker Jazz Band. We still play together as Snake Oil Medicine Show. We try to get together once a month and play music and have a gig every now and then. And same with Woody, Sufi Brothers. He and I still get together and play regularly.
So you're a busy guy.
I am busy, but by design, and I was a lot busier before the pandemic.
Everyone was.
I was taking so much work, but actually, I have to say, in some ways, I was in a position, just feeling like, that I had the privilege to be in a position to really kind of enjoy my time in the pandemic. To really
sure, yeah. I mean,
and it's a weird thing to say because I have a lot of people that have not had that privilege.
Right.
And
well, in my case, it was great for the podcast. My podcast blew up during the pandemic because people had time to listen.
Yeah.
I mean, you're kind of stuck at home, and I'll admit the podcast has tons of musicians or people in the music industry listen. So when they were there with, it's like, oh yeah, we can listen to, musician stories. This is cool. So I look at that from me personally as a plus. I mean, I didn't get to play any live music.
Yeah.
But and during that time I did have to do more by telephone, which is not, I mean, we sit here, and this is one of the beautiful things about this. We have a connection. We're sitting here across from each other. We do it on the phone, it's not so much.
Yeah, or Zoom even.
Or Zoom even, yeah.
So hard.
Did you write and do stuff through Zoom?
I actually did a couple of things. It was fun.
Yeah.
Just to break the monotony, or not really monotony, but to keep the creative juices flowing, I need to say.
Yeah.
And I did a fun little project, like a radio show kind of thing that we put together, and I was writing some cool background music for that. I really love soundtrack music. It's a big part of my influence, especially in the correct tones. It's one of the things we
Sure, that would stand to reason with it being an instrumental band.
Yeah, and I love that 60s stuff. But I love a lot of new stuff too. I mean, I love the weird electronica music that's happening too.
Speaking of that, okay. The guy, John Weissenberg, he was an electronic music major in college.
Really?
But how he hooked up with Billy Strings is he was playing a bluegrass show with Chris Jones and the Night Drivers, and they were doing a show. And Billy Strings is a huge electronic music fan. Nice. And so you just never know about people. I mean, there's Billy out playing bluegrass and playing with everybody in the world, but come to find out one of his true loves is electronic music.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of if you talk to a lot of new, I mean, I'm not unique in that. There's a lot of people playing music who have varied interests, and especially young people are less afraid to pursue interests that are outside of a certain genre, and I think that's one of the good things about the new internet age is, it does bring that stuff closer into our...
Oh, it does, and it does, it exposes you to stuff that you would not have been exposed to as a child growing up in the 50s, 60s, even 70s. Now, your childhood growing up, I suppose, is different than most people's.
Well, probably, I guess, yeah. I mean, I because of my father, Tim Krekel, great songwriter and guitar player, who straddled that line of a craftsman and artist, because he was hired as a guitar player,
right?
But also wrote some hit songs.
Yep.
So yeah, from the get-go, I mean, I was in a family that where the dad was gone a lot.
Yeah.
On the road.
Right.
What's that mean?
I mean, I guess his on the road probably might have even made yours seem not as intense.
Not at all. No. No. But I also have to say that things you have to take into account how things were different then too. On the road these days is not as viable.
Oh no, it's not. No, not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, he was in kind of the golden age, really.
He really was. He really was.
Yeah.
Being able to be around that and to have those stories.
Yeah, I'm sure.
There's nothing I like more than listening to.
Do you know a lot of Buffett songs?
Well, I don't actually know any Buffett songs. But Dad did play with Jimmy Buffett. He played with Billy Swan right after I Can Help.
Yeah.
Happened and he gained a lot of. He toured on that. He didn't record I Can Help, but he did tour that record, and then he got picked up by Jimmy Buffett, and recorded on "Son of a Sailor,"
right?
Which is the platinum record.
Sure, it's a great record, and, really.
That guitar solo on "Cheeseburger in Paradise" was my dad.
There you go.
And in fact, I took my friend in the around 98. Dad would, even though he was with Buffett through the 70s, he started pursuing his own thing again around late 70s, early 80s. But he would still play with Buffett on the road. He'd do summer tours as a guitar player. And he played with Marshall Chapman in South Carolina.
Actually, she's done the podcast.
Yeah,
I know Marshall.
I saw her and she's great.
She is.
I actually recorded on one of her records. She had written a song with my dad, and after he passed, and I have a similar vocal range as him, and I sang
That's
his
too cool.
parts on it. And
that's really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. She's great. But anyway, he was touring with. He was in her band at that time, backing her up, and they were opening for Buffett. So I took my friend to see him in the Charlotte Amphitheater. down there, Blockbuster Pavilion.
Yeah.
It was around '98. Got to go backstage. Saw Ric Flair.
Rick's everywhere. You know, Rick.
He's my friend Jimmy Buffett and. Fingers Taylor, the harmonica player, was always a good friend of our family.
I was always a big fan. I'm a harmonica player, and I do a lot of that still. And Fingers Taylor was always one of my heroes because there's a couple of schools of music, and there's the Fingers with Jimmy Buffett style, which is also like Jimmy Fadden's with the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. And then you got your whole other blues things.
Yes.
But and Taylor, I saw Taylor, Fingers Taylor play as a blues act too one time. So so it's interesting how that interplayed. But
I mean that's one of those cats I met when I was a little kid, and I just looked at it and I was like, this guy exudes cool. There's just something about him, and such a cool dude. But anyway, what's funny is as part of the big show, they had like outside in the concession area, they had a little stage set up, and all these kids were in line with their guitars, and they were getting up and they were auditioning, and whoever won the audition got to go on stage with Buffett and play my dad's guitar solo from Cheeseburger and Pickles.
Oh, really? That's funny.
And I remember the whole thing was surreal and fun, and
So I guess a kid won and got to do it.
Yeah. It was great.
Did he do a good job?
Oh, heck yeah.
That's great.
And Jimmy Buffett, probably that had an influence on me just because he always had a big stage show with props. And
he did.
Fins in the water and all that.
First, I was in Raleigh one time, and I'm with this guy, and so we're looking for something to do. So we go in this lounge, which is inside of a motel, and the guy goes, there's a guy in there, and he's got cutouts behind him, of people. That's his band, and he's playing guitar by himself. And we go, I skipped that. but he didn't have a band at that time. He had cutouts.
Wow.
So it was pretty cool.
That is funny. Wow. So I got to be privy to some big things. At the time, it was just, I'm a kid, I don't really, see.
Right.
It doesn't sink in the way it does now as a musician to look back on those times. I remember going to New York City, and my dad was on Saturday Night Live, and he was friends with John Belushi.
Yeah.
John Belushi called our house, and I as a little kid, I was held. Carly Simon held me. I don't do these things.
But it didn't register at that time, did it? I guess now it does.
Whoa, what a cool thing, that I got to grow up around that. And then also, my mom, after her and my dad split, she married Skeeter Davis's brother.
Oh.
And also my dad would back up Skeeter Davis occasionally too. It was a smaller town back then, and so as a kid I would get to go to the Grand Ole Opry and go backstage. I met Roy Acuff.
That's too cool.
I knew he was an important guy. I didn't really understand.
No, you didn't really. How important it was.
Yeah, it's a very important man. Bill Monroe would come over to her house at the parties, and there was a little crossover there in the late 80s, early 90s when I really started to pursue music, and I realized the access that I had. That as and mandolin was my first choice instrument. After studying guitar, when I really wanted to pursue something, I really fell into the mandolin, and then I was able to go see Bill Monroe play at his weekly gig, and that was huge. And Sam Bush and my father were good friends. I got to have a couple of lessons with him, and
that's cool too.
And to be just to be backstage and to see, Sam and just practicing vocals, just amazing kind of things.
How much stuff did you get to record or ever play much with your dad?
Later on, I would say that people always ask me, well, did he teach you a lot? Well, at first, he did give me the guitar at age 13 and say, well, here's a guitar. I don't know what you want to do with this. You can do whatever you want. Right. But that was it. He stepped away.
No pressure.
No, in fact, less than no pressure.
Well,
actually, not even really much encouragement.
Yeah,
honestly.
I mean, I did that with my own kids. I don't know that. I don't know. I think music chooses you.
It does.
I don't think, and I don't recommend it to, when people ask me, I do something else with your time, you know, I mean.
Unless you really want to, I mean, but yeah, it is, you know, it can be frustrating.
Yeah, it can. And you miss all of the drama, all of the sit up, tear down, you know, it's.
The business part of it is just awful.
Oh, it's just terrible. I mean, the music is the best part.
That's the only part, yeah.
Yeah.
But once I had obviously was stuck with it, you know, then, you know, he started to encourage me.
Right.
And then I would go visit him and I would sit in with him. And then he, you know, we even had a show, and then around the 2000s, and he by then he had moved back to Louisville, Kentucky from Nashville. He had been burned by the music industry like a lot of people.
Yeah.
Realized that, you know, you can go home, and then he fostered an amazing fan base in Louisville just as a local musician.
Sure.
And interestingly, I mean, I do kind of model my own career around that now, because there's a lot of value in being a local musician.
I agree totally. I mean,
and you know, I think, you know, he kind of would sometimes feel like, I mean, I think I'm sure he had feelings of like, well, I didn't really, you know, I was on the verge so many times.
Right.
He really was. I mean, I'd say also his career line, you know, has influenced my my own thoughts on the industry and my the fact that I'm very cautious around.
sure. Oh, yeah, I agree.
And even from an early age, since I started playing music, I still had a hefty amount of caution around
Yeah.
what I wanted to do, you know.
And that's a wise thing. I mean,
It is. I think so. It was for me. But yeah, I mean, up until his death, we were playing a lot together, as much as possible. And
did you record with him?
we recorded on his last record. Well, he recorded on a couple of my records.
Okay.
We recorded a record together with Abbott Von Meter, who was the Kennedy impersonator from the 1960s. It was the highest selling record of all time when that came out. The First
Really?
Family. You know that record?
Yeah, I do.
You see it at all the thrift
Yeah.
stores.
Oh, yeah.
Well, he was a friend of my father. He introduced me to Abbott, and we would go up to Maine and we would play with him, and then I started backing up. And what he was he was a comedian, but he was also an amazing barrel house piano player and
Right.
honky-tonk
Yeah.
songwriter. And his first love was songwriting, and he'd write these great country tunes that were also about philosophy and he was this character with these stories. He was one of these characters I collected in my life, and it taught me so much. And anyway, my father and I recorded a record with him.
That's too cool.
We brought him down to Asheville and did a record.
Oh, really? Did you, it's like an Echo or somewhere like that?
It was at pre-Echo. There was a place called Collapsible
Yeah,
Recording
I
Studio.
remember that. Yeah.
And that's where I recorded a lot of stuff. And that was also its own little scene in time. That early 2000s, late 90s, Asheville, North Carolina was still, it hadn't quite hit that tourist
Place
boom.
like it is, yeah.
Like, and everything was real local feeling, and we had the run of the place.
Right.
You know, we had a real community of musicians and artists. And anyway, so I recorded that record with Dad, and then when he passed away, he had been working on a record, and we had written a song together, and he had recorded his part on like GarageBand. It was like a demo, and we were supposed to go in and really put it down, but the engineer was great. He took that GarageBand file and just made it work.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
I went in and like recorded my vocals on it and did my guitar on it, and my wife Amy, she played some on it too, and it was a cool thing to do. It was very cathartic.
I'm sure.
It was it was a hard time there losing him.
I'm sure it was.
You know, when you lose a parent, or you go through a big loss of a person that's close to you in your life is a big influential thing on your art.
Oh, it is. I totally agree.
Yeah.
So that's
But yeah, actually, but my dad was a great songwriter. Actually, I was thinking about doing one of his songs. Maybe I'll play one of
Yeah,
the songs.
yeah, let's do it.
I was going to do this one as a memory piece that I've just started doing, and I was always kind of I love this song. It's just one of the earliest memories I have is this song, but I was always real kind of scared of trying to do it, and then I just kind of fell into it. But it's about his memory of his childhood.
Oh, okay.
You know?
That's cool.
So it's like called the West End Song. I get the feeling fine when I think of summertime. Hot dogs on a bicycle street, playing chicken in the street, and listening to the teardrops play, singing three-part harmony. In the basement we were doing fine, learning every background line. Baseball down at Shawnee Park, hit the Dairy Dale after dark. All along the bar, you know that we'd sit. It's funny how the pieces seem to fit. And now it's coming back to me. Ooh, my favorite memory. Listen to the rock and roll blowing through my open window, and the amusement park at the end of the street. Listen to the sound of that rock and roll beat. Gonna stay up all night long just to hoping I hear my favorite song. I'm singing ooh, wah, ooh. Now it's coming back to me. Ooh, my favorite memory. Listen to the rock and roll blow through my open window. The amusement park at the end of the street. Listen to the band with that rock and roll beat. Gonna stay up all night long. I'm just hoping I hear my favorite song. I'm singing ooh, wah, ooh. Ooh, wah, ooh. Ooh, wah, ooh. Ooh. Sing it ooh, wah, ooh. Ooh, wah, ooh. My favorite memory. Ooh, wah, ooh.
Is that hard for you to do? Just now?
It's kind of hard. It's a lot of memory there.
Yeah, I mean, I was sitting there thinking if I was having to do something like that, how hard that would be.
It can be, yeah. It brings. I mean, it's a lot of emotion. There's a lot of emotion in music these days.
True.
Yeah.
I mean,
for me and my age and state of the world and everything.
well, I do appreciate you doing that one.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that was really. I mean, I would think that would
I think I
take
missed a line, but, well,
that would take an effort a bit there. You know, I mean, I would think.
yeah. But it's inspired me, you know. Like, in fact, well, actually, I brought a new one in because I was like, well, I'm going to write my own memory piece too.
Sure.
Well, this is actually from a different part of my life. Or this would be like a little older, right before the teenage years, or right at the cusp of the teenage years, you know. So a little more of a bad boy streak.
Where would you have been living then?
I've been in Nashville.
In Nashville,
This
okay.
is all about growing up in Nashville
Okay.
as a kid. But yeah, let's see if I can get through this one. watching scary movies and drinking dad's beer, running the streets and testing the law, climbing high trees and daring to fall. I'm saying, whoa, hey, hey, living like forever in a single day. Whoa, hey, hey, I ain't never gonna stop, I ain't never gonna pay. Walking all day way across town, wishing the sun would never go down. Sneaking in the alleyways and smoking clothes, hiding dirty magazines under my clothes, saying, whoa, hey, hey, living like forever in a single day. Whoa, and hey, hey, ain't never gonna stop, I ain't never gonna pay. Girl, when I was playing truth or dare, I still remember the summer sun in her hair, bugs in the lamp flame, air so still, nights so thick we swallowed our fill, singing, whoa, hey, hey, living like forever in a single day. Whoa, hey, hey, I ain't never gonna stop, ain't never gonna pay. We're singing, whoa, hey, hey, living like forever in a single day. Whoa, and hey, hey, never gonna stop, I ain't never gonna pay. Anyway, that's a new one.
I like that a lot.
Bought that one
Yeah, I like
recently,
that.
but
Yeah.
after I learned that one from my dad, I was like, well, memory pieces are definitely, you start going down that road thinking about, you know, it becomes palpable, the smells and the feels.
It does. It does. Speaking of smells, I've written songs. I have a song about the smells of, stuff like honeysuckle.
Yes.
And, honeysuckle is actually blooming now, really big.
Yeah.
So that's.
It makes I'm probably part of why my voice is so raspy right now.
Yeah, I think mine. I was told last night that mine was kind of raspy.
Oh yeah.
Last
Thanks
night.
a lot.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the way I planned it. Yeah,
exactly.
Also, speaking of funny things like that, I kicked a song in the wrong key last night and could not sing it. And it was one of the things. It was like, oh, this is not good. Can I modulate this thing up and get it right? And
that's a hard one, man. I've done that.
And it's like, even when I modulate it, it's like, well, I wasn't even close to the key I needed to be.
Yeah.
And as I get older, I've had to change keys of songs that I did earlier. And sometimes at my age, I forget and go back to the original thing because songwriters, sometimes when you're doing you're just a group of songwriters, can be a bit intimidating when the songwriters are good.
Yeah. I've only been in a couple of circles and I really I don't feel very comfortable in there. I don't know. I often... It's such a personal thing anyway.
It is. Oh, I could stand naked in front of everybody in this town easier than do a new song for you.
It can be hard. Yeah. I mean, that's part of the music, life is this, I can count some very, times when I've been just thrown to the wolves, and so many embarrassing or times when someone was just, when you're out there bearing your soul and the most awful things can happen.
Oh yeah, they can.
It really can. But that's true with any vocation. I know.
True, yeah.
But when your vocation is around an art, and you're putting your art out there, then.
Oh, and I guess in your case with the many different types, you could actually have your band in a situation that is not conducive to what you're doing, which is always. So often. That is hard. I've been there.
Part of being on the road too, that's one of the downsides of it. When you foster a career as a local musician, you can kind of have more control over. You
can. Well, people know what you do a little better than turning up and I think about the Blues Brothers when they turn up in the country bar.
Yes.
I mean, I've kind of been in that situation. I think all musicians have. It's like, oh, what am I doing playing here?
Oh,
you know,
yes. Oh,
and this is not going to work.
Yeah, and you've known it's not working, and
Yeah.
you knew it wasn't going to work, and
Yeah,
it's still not working.
And you got to finish the show out.
Just got to get through it.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, and with yours are so eclectic along the line. You know.
Oh yeah.
I find that very, very cool. But you know.
It is cool. I mean, listen, it's not lost on me, but I will, on that tip, I would say that, as when I'm touring, just like with my wife and I, that if it's just the two of you, or if you're just by yourself, it's a lot harder than.
Oh
At
God.
least if you have a little group of guys.
True. Yeah. I
get
agree.
through it a little, the band of brothers, or just to get through it together.
Oh, and it would be really hard too to be like it with your wife.
Yeah.
I do duets sometimes,
Sure.
and it's two guys. Well, if it stinks, it stinks.
Yeah.
But it would bother me more with a loved one with me.
Absolutely, because but you really feel the love, and you just want to make it.
Exactly.
Right. It can be hard.
I've seen Chatham Rabbits. They have a TV show. You guys should have a TV show.
Oh, shoot. I've been on a couple, but
they have a new PBS series where they're doing their life, and I was thinking yours and your wife's would be much more interesting.
Well, she used to keep a journal of her tours, and I was like, we need to pull those out and at least make a comic book or something out of it, because there are stories in there that you just wouldn't believe. I mean, the things you go through on the road.
No.
And also, it was a unique time. So I did pick up and start touring again in the mid 2000s through 2010, around then. Amy and I actually got picked up by this booking agency, and we were putting out more records, and we had a lot of stuff going on, especially because she was playing the ukulele, and there was kind of a little hot craze happening at that point around that. But we were just doing our weirdo thing, and honestly, we thought, well, okay, let's try it. So we did go out on the road for a while there. And that's the period, I would say, that she was writing about, that was so interesting, because you talk about how things changed in the scene and being on the road. That was the time when it was like a lot of clubs were still trying to work that model from the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
And bands were still trying to work that. And booking agents were booking you trying to still do that 90s model, but at the same time, the internet age was coming up, and streaming music was happening, and people were putting out music on their own at that time, and that was just a very perilous time.
Oh, I'm sure it was.
To be on the road and to try that model was failing, and maybe it still works for some people, and I do see young people going out and hitting the road, but for me, we were like, well, we did give it a shot there, and just decided, that's.
It's like my favorite. My favorite is Jonathan Bird. Do you know Jonathan?
Yeah.
Jonathan told me, hey, I'm not touring anymore. I can play the Kraken and near Chapel Hill one night a week maybe,
place.
and I can do. I'm okay with being local, and maybe every once in a while someone will take me to a festival somewhere, rather than go out and beat myself to death and wind up.
Well, you get to an age too where you're done with sleeping on couches.
True, this is true, and done with the van breaking down.
Yeah. Totally. So, oh wow, yeah. So many stories, but you don't have to. But at the same time, I treasure every bit of it.
Sure, you do.
And like I said, part of our romance is the fact of playing these songs together. I think she's an incredible songwriter too, and I'm always blown away by that. So
that's a good thing. I mean,
it is.
You're lucky. You're a lucky man to have that.
I am. I really am. I guess part of it too is just being able, the privilege of being a musician, and I mean, listen, as a cis white man, it's not lost on me,
Right.
I have a lot of privilege, and so I really do, see a particular responsibility to honoring equity in my life.
Sure. Oh yeah.
So that's been a big thing for me too, and part of that is supporting her work, because she does a lot of great community organizing, and that's her main passion, and she's a writer, and she supports a lot of work and supports alternative systems to capitalism, and more life-affirming systems that and working for impacted communities.
Right.
And it's kind of like once you know about some of this stuff, it's like hard to unknow it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I do. I do understand that.
And then it's like, well, but it doesn't have to bring you down too. It's like we also have a responsibility to live every day and to be live right. But it influences the way we live, and it influences the way I even pursue my art, and I had a hard time even I think probably around when the lockdown happened, I'm like really feeling like, well, why would I even want to be a musician? It's like it's all about this individualistic pursuit instead of a collective pursuit, which whatever you think about how things are going in the world right now, the old systems are not really working, and at least by my reasoning, by when I look at things, I think that it's almost like a dying system.
Yeah, I'm thinking that it is.
Yeah, and it's taking a lot of people down with it, and the people that I listen to and the thinkers that I listen to, they suggest that our survival is through dependent on community building, and collective liberation is the goal, that's
right.
And so I've always got that in my head now, and it's always but as a so I was always, so for a while there I was like, well, how is being a musician, how does that fit into the cog? But then I realized too, that the importance of music and all of that.
Well, you realize that from the beginning of mankind, that music has been a part of every civilization, and that it does have its place just in the fact that well, I was going to go with a biblical reference there, but it's just as much as people need a Bible and a God, they need music. I mean, this is just my take, but this is a harsh, cruel world we live in, so you have to have hope.
Yes.
Well, religion gives people hope that there is a better world somewhere, or that all the bad stuff that happens in this world can be rectified somehow.
Yeah.
And music gives you the same type of escape.
I think you're absolutely
right. I think that if you look at it, is there any real true value to music?
Yeah.
Only if you think about it is therapeutic and an escape from the harsh realities of this world.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it is a worthy thing when you think, it's like, really, is this something I should do? Because I've had that thought. I mean, why am I really doing this?
Right.
There's other things that could be done.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the paradox of music, of the music industry. I mean, that's the thing, that the industry is a terrible thing. The industry built around something that was like valued by the collective. That like the industry though is built around the idea of the narcissistic individual being the person that you're concentrating your energy on, instead of the music coming out of that person and how it affects the world. And it's that thing that I've always been struggling with. But then I recently played a show, and I have a friend who's battling cancer. I have a lot of friends battling cancer, actually, but one in particular, and they came with their friends to the show, and I could just see that palpable healing happening. Sure. And in my place in it, and it really opened my eyes and made me think about things, and it's instead of just being a concept out there, it was actually happening. And it felt good, and so I do see the value in it, and the value its place in collective liberation, and
I mean, it gets us skewed because we put probably too much, admiration probably on entertainers of any type, whether it is actors,
absolutely,
sports figures, or
yes.
or that's entertainment also.
Yes.
You
yes.
know, I mean, it does kind of overload the system really when you think about it.
It really does, yeah.
Where it should be, I'm like you. We should admire the whole beautiful thing of the fact that it's the music and not David Lee Roth. You know, I mean,
well, yeah. Is it the artist or is it the art?
Yeah, exactly.
That is the focus, and like even it comes down to like currently when you have problematic artists but that have still produced really great art.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, that's
coming to terms with that is important, and I think that they're, you can separate them, but also it's important to learn from the stories of what that artist, maybe has done, also. Yeah. I think you can have it both ways.
I think you can.
But as long as you are true to yourself and realize the impact that it has on the people around you.
You want to touch on your visual art while we're here?
Oh, well, I guess so. I would say, honestly, I don't pursue that really that much. And honestly, my visual art really did go more down the hole of craftsperson than artist. It does create a release, just like anything that you do with your hands can be very therapeutic. But as a printmaking is really what I spent a lot of my time in the last 20 years on, and it's an ephemeral thing, and it's also as a utilitarian purpose as well. So mostly the art that I have created is stuff that's being, I make because I know it might sell or something.
Sure. Yeah.
So I don't really even think of that I'd more think of it as a craft than an art. But I do have it in me, and I do sometimes sit down and draw or maybe try to paint something, and that's from the heart. And when it happens and it comes from the heart, then that's a good feeling.
Oh yeah, it is.
I will say, but yeah, since the pandemic, I have spent more time working with my hands outside, around my garden and out in the woods, and that's just, every year that becomes more important to me than anything. And like we said at the beginning, being in harmony with the world.
I grow blueberries, so I
there you go.
And there's a zen to picking blueberries.
Yeah.
For about 30 minutes.
Right.
Yeah. After that, it becomes a chore. But that first 30 minutes it's out there in nature, the berries are beautiful. Yeah. I'm just so relaxed. And then, of course, they're here in July. So I'm like, finally, it's like, it's hot out here and a bit buggy. And, but just for a little while, it's a beautiful thing.
It is.
And this time of year, when I get them, it's nice out and I'm getting the deal ready.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I forget then in July. It's
it's going to be so fun all the time.
Yeah.
The romanticism of it.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, it's just like playing music. It's like, oh, it must be so great, playing music all the time. Yeah, but until you're like in the car driving for 6 hours, and you get to the place, and then you got to check in with the guy and figure out where you're staying, and then you got to figure out what you're eating, and then what time is sound check, and then what time you have to be on there, and you have to load all your stuff, and then you got to unload, and maybe there's like, there's some people there. Oh, we didn't quite hit the numbers tonight, or well, you had a really great show, but we took this much cut.
Yeah,
and now you got to load your stuff out. Now you got to drive to the next place.
Oh yeah, I
there's a
do.
tedium to it all.
It's like sure. I mean, that's one of the things that people I think have learned from this podcast. Yeah, it's beautiful when you're playing the music.
Yeah,
it's just that. Some ugly steps to get there.
There are, and also some beautiful steps.
No, there is.
Great things and beautiful parts of the world.
Meet really nice people, really interesting, cool people.
Yeah, and everyone, people are beautiful. I mean, there's a lot of ugliness that you can see in the world if you choose to, and it's in your face too. But like, deep down, we are all human, and
Yeah.
that's why I think the community and the collective are really, unfortunately not what the American dream is centered on, but what we need to be centered on in order to pull ourselves to the next phase.
I mean, I find myself surrounded with musicians a lot, which that's not a really good representative type personality of America. I mean,
you're right.
most of the ones I know are funny.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
Yeah.
Pretty knowledgeable people.
Yeah.
Which when I step away from it, sometimes I find that that's not the case.
That's true.
I mean, it's have we missed anything?
Oh, I mean, I'm sure we have.
Yeah, I'm sure we have.
I'm sure we missed a lot.
I'm sure.
I can do some more songs, or
Sure.
I don't know if our time's running out, or where are we at with this?
Well,
how long have we been? Have I been?
We've actually been at it an hour.
Holy smokes!
You want to do another? You want to do another song?
Yes, I'll do another song. I was trying to think about. I kind of want to do another new song because.
Sure.
It's
I
good
love
for
new
me.
songs. Yeah. Yeah, I stumbled over 3 of them last night. 3
Did
new
you?
ones where I even had the words in front of me on one of them, but I kind of knocked it askew a little bit, and it was like, oh.
Ooh, that was a big one.
Yeah, it was.
Well, yeah, I was thinking about this is I started off with a love song, so this is the other thing. Thinking about loss, and it's hard, but there's beauty in it too, And if you can pull something good out of it, I guess it's part of the experience. I saw your thumbprint in a book. I tried to remember the way that you looked. I recalled a slight remark and the way that you smiled when the world got dark. And I tried, but the years slipped by. And how can I forget? But my memory, it slips. Give me a picture from the good old days, before the moments that you slipped away. Those little details find their way to my mind, like the smell of morphine and the TV crying. And I tried, but the years, they slip by. And how can I forget? But my memory, it slips. They say the world keeps on turning, but nothing seems to stop this hurting. They say that time is a killer, is a healer, but I know time is a stone cold killer. Your name came up the other day, and I smiled politely and I turned away. I told little lies, I played the part, but you're always with me, a little piece of my heart. And I tried, yes I tried, but the years keep slipping on by. And if my memory, it slips, I'll never forget you. I'll never forget you.
That's a little sad.
Yeah, well, you can find value in the sad. If
You can.
get something beautiful out of the sadness.
It's a beautiful song.
Thanks, man.
A song.
Yeah.
And that's the emotion I think that song's supposed to evoke.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also cathartic.
Yeah, well, and I think putting it out there for yourself is definitely, you know, and maybe for someone else who's gone through the thing. That's cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Thanks for having me. This has been beautiful.
It has. It's been a lot of fun. I've been looking forward to this because I've been hearing your bands and trying to figure out, man, this guy, he's just all over the place, you know?
Yeah, I know.
But it's great. You're not all over the place.
I'm very fortunate to be all over the place because, like I said before, you know, getting to play so many diverse styles of music is so fulfilling and keeps it interesting for me. And you know, the other thing I think about is you know, when you do, like, if you play a certain style of music, there is in your town, there's a collective of people who do that, and you might find yourself, you know, suddenly you're part of a clique. Or
it is cool. Yeah.
When you play a lot of different kinds of music, you get to interface with a lot of different kinds of groups and people.
Yeah, you do. You really do.
Expand your philosophy on the world and everything, you know, and listening to other people and listening to your neighbors, getting to know your neighbors. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, it's great
these days.
I thank you for coming and doing this.
Thanks for having me, Sandy. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
All right. This is something that my maternal grandmother used to tell me. I love you, baby, and I don't mean maybe. I love you, baby, ain't gonna stop. I love you, baby, like a hog loves slop. Now singing and dancing together, no Friday night could be better. Saturday afternoon, waking up late in bed, eggs and the bacon go straight to my head. And I love you, baby, and I don't mean maybe. Love you, baby, ain't gonna stop. I love you, baby, like a hog loves slop. Now when you walk in, heads be turning. Short dress and high boots makes me yearning. And when you step to me, girl, I just can't believe. With you, I wear my heart on my sleeve. I love you, baby, I don't mean maybe. I love you, baby, and I ain't gonna stop. I love you, baby, like a hog loves slop. Now sometimes I sabotage this love that I found. Open my mouth and I sound like a clown. I gotta stop this beast inside me, this old raging hound. I'm like a ship sinking, dragging both of us down. Now I know I love you, girl, but I got some nerve. Don't let your love fly away like a fragile bird. Gonna make it up to you and pay interest on my words. Give me another chance, cause love's so absurd. I love you, baby, and I don't mean maybe. I love you, baby, ain't gonna stop. I love you, baby, like a hog loves slop. Whatever you want me, I'll be there. Whenever you need me, I'll be there. Whenever you want me, I'll be there. Whenever you need me, you know that I will. You know that I will. I promise that I will. I love you, baby. You know I don't mean maybe. And I love you, baby. I don't mean maybe. I love you, baby, ain't gonna stop. I love you, baby, like a hog loves slop.